Mr. Zocchi, a renowned and affluent businessman known for his generosity and compassion, was driving out one bright morning with his stunning wife, Mrs. Zocchi. The couple enjoyed their peaceful drive until they came across a large crowd gathered by the roadside. As they slowed down, they noticed an atmosphere of sorrow and distress, with many people crying. Curious and concerned, Mr. Zocchi pulled over, and they stepped out of the car to understand the situation. They soon learned that a terrible accident had occurred. A family of 3, a father, mother, and their young daughter, had been involved in a fatal crash. Tragically, the couple died on the spot, leaving their daughter, a little girl of about 2 years old, miraculously unharmed. Not a single scratch marked her small, innocent frame, but she sat there, confused and scared, her parents gone forever. The sight of the orphan child struck a chord with everyone present. As they debated what to do, the dominant suggestion was to take the child to an orphanage. While the option seemed practical to some, others hesitated, wondering if there might be a better solution for the little girl. Mr. Zocchi and his wife, moved by the plight of the toddler, listened to the discussions intently. A few of the gathered onlookers recognized the Zocchi family and their reputation for kindness and selflessness. Their presence alone brought a sense of hope to the distraught crowd. When the suggestion of taking the girl to an orphanage was raised again, Mr. Zocchi stepped forward decisively. His voice, calm yet authoritative, silenced the murmurs. "Taking her to an orphanage is a noble thought," he began, "but I believe this child deserves more than just survival. She deserves a chance to thrive, to grow up in a loving home. My wife and I will take care of her as our own. We'll give her the opportunity for a beautiful life, one filled with love, education, and stability." The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, deeply moved by his generosity. Many stepped forward to thank and commend the couple, expressing admiration for their big hearts. Mrs. Zocchi knelt beside the little girl, her eyes brimming with tears, and gently picked her up. The toddler clung to her instinctively, as though sensing the warmth and safety she offered. In that moment, the Zocchi family grew by one, and the child's life took a turn from tragedy to hope. When Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi arrived home with Aisha, their new addition, they immediately called for Madame Florence, the family's trusted nanny. Madame Florence had been in charge of caring for their biological daughter, Loretta, and had become an integral part of their household. With a firm yet kind tone, Mr. Zocchi gave clear instructions. "Madame Florence, from this moment on, Aisha is a part of our family. I expect you to care for her just as you do for Loretta. There should be no difference in the love, attention, and privileges given to both girls. Treat them as equals in every way." Mrs. Zocchi added with a warm smile, "We want Aisha to feel loved and cherished, just as Loretta does. This house is her home now." Madame Florence, a nurturing and diligent woman, nodded in agreement. "You can count on me, sir, ma'am. Aisha will be treated as well." From that day forward, Aisha and Loretta shared everything. They attended the same prestigious school, where they walked into class hand in hand, often mistaken for siblings. They played together, their laughter echoing through the grand halls of the Zocchi estate. At mealtime, they sat side by side at the dining table, sharing stories of their day. Their bond grew stronger with each passing moment, and soon, Aisha had adjusted seamlessly to her new life. The love and care Aisha received from the Zocchi family were transformative. She began to blossom, Her once wary eyes now sparkled with joy and confidence. Over the years, her gratitude and affection for the family deepened, and she started to see Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi as her parents, and Loretta as her sister. The Zocchi household, too, began to see Aisha as one of their own. Her integration was so natural and complete that even close friends and neighbors often forgot she wasn't their biological child. The family's love for her was evident in every aspect of their lives, from the way they celebrated her milestones to how they supported her dreams. Mr. Zocchi, eager to create cherished memories with his daughters during their holiday, decided to dedicate an entire week to spending quality time with them. He planned activities filled with fun, joy, and bonding. They played games, shared meals, and indulged in treats like ice cream together, their laughter echoing throughout the house. It was a week of togetherness, one that Mr. Zocchi hoped his daughters would remember fondly for years to come. On one particular day, Mr. Zocchi decided to engage the girls in a mathematics game, thinking it would be both educational and entertaining. He posed questions to test their understanding, expecting both Aisha and Loretta to participate enthusiastically. To his amazement, Aisha answered each question with confidence and accuracy, solving even the more complex problems with ease. Loretta, however, struggled to grasp the questions, remaining silent or giving incorrect answers. Frustrated and disappointed, Mr. Zocchi turned to Loretta with a stern expression. "Loretta, is it only food that you go to school to eat?" He scolded. "You don't even act like you're there to learn. Why are you so dull? Look at Aisha. She's always ahead. Even at school, she's the one bringing home all the awards, while you don't seem to care." His harsh words stung, and Loretta lowered her head in shame. The cheerful atmosphere of the day shifted as silence fell over the room. Just then, Mrs. Zocchi entered. Noticing the tension, she glanced at Loretta, then at her husband. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. Mr. Zocchi sighed, his frustration evident. "Loretta isn't improving at all in her academics. Aisha is excelling, but Loretta can't even answer simple math questions. I think there's a problem. She's not focused. Maybe we need to look into this." Mrs. Zocchi frowned thoughtfully. "I think it's time I visited their school. Something isn't right. Loretta isn't getting better, and I need to understand why. Perhaps the teachers aren't doing enough." Hearing this, Mr. Zocchi softened slightly. To be fair, he admitted, Loretta has been coming home with various awards since primary one. She used to do so well. Maybe there's something we're missing. We need to figure out what's happening. When the school term resumed, Mrs. Zocchi decided to personally drive Aisha and Loretta to school. She wanted to use the opportunity to address her growing concerns about Loretta's academic performance. After the morning assembly, a message was sent asking her to meet with the principal in his office. Sitting across from the principal, Mrs. Zocchi wasted no time getting to the point. "What's wrong with my child?" she asked, her tone a mix of frustration and concern. "We've been paying heavily for both of our children, yet only one of them, Aisha, seems to be coping well. What's the problem with Loretta?" The principal sighed deeply, choosing his words carefully. "Madam, we've observed that Loretta is slower in learning compared to her peers. She struggles to grasp concepts as quickly as others, but please don't worry. This session, we plan to give her extra attention to help her improve." Mrs. Zocchi leaned forward, lowering her voice. "That's not enough," she said firmly. "I want Loretta's results to be better than Aisha's this term. Even if it means swapping their scores, make it happen." The principal's eyes widened in shock at her suggestion. "Madam," he said after a moment of stunned silence, "the two children are yours. Why would you think doing such a thing would help? Surely you want fairness and honesty in their education." Mrs. Zocchi shook her head, her face hardening. "You don't understand," she replied. "Aisha is an orphan. Yes, we took her in, but I won't allow her to overshadow my own daughter in my house or in this school. Loretta must come first, no matter what." The principal's expression turned serious. "Madam," he said firmly, "we are committed to helping Loretta improve, but I cannot compromise the integrity of the school by manipulating results. Both girls deserve the chance to succeed based on their own merits. Aisha's achievements do not diminish Loretta's potential. I urge you to reconsider this approach." Mrs. Zocchi sat back, her lips pressed into a thin line. She was displeased but said nothing further. Rising from her seat, she nodded curtly and left the office, leaving the principal shaken by the encounter. As she walked back to her car, her mind churned with conflicting emotions. While she loved Loretta deeply, her resentment toward Aisha's brilliance was growing, creating a rift in her heart that threatened to disrupt the harmony in their family. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and the garden was alive with the sound of laughter as Aisha and Loretta played together. The two girls ran, jumped, and chased each other around, their carefree giggles filling the air. They were inseparable, their bond as strong as sisters could be. While running, Loretta tripped over a small stone and fell to the ground with a thud. Aisha immediately stopped, rushing to her side. Sorry, please," she said anxiously, pulling Loretta to her feet. "Let's go to Mom so she can treat it." The girls walked hand in hand back to the house, but as soon as Mrs. Zocchi saw Loretta's scraped knee, her face darkened with anger. "What happened here?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Mom, it's nothing," Loretta began, but Mrs. Zocchi interrupted, her gaze fixed on Aisha. "What's wrong with you, Aisha? Why would you push my daughter and injure her like this?" Aisha's eyes widened in shock. "No, Mom, I didn't push her," she said, her voice trembling. "Loretta fell by herself. I was just helping her up." "Yes, Mom," Loretta chimed in, nodding earnestly. "It wasn't Aisha. I tripped on a stone. She was helping me." But Mrs. Zocchi's anger only grew. Her eyes narrowed as she turned to Loretta. "Keep quiet," she snapped. "Aisha, who are you to open your dirty mouth and talk to me like that? I won't tolerate this nonsense anymore. I won't let you make my daughter feel incapable or stupid." Aisha's lip quivered as tears welled up in her eyes. Her small voice broke as she asked, "Mom, who am I? Am I not your daughter too? Why do you always call Loretta your daughter? Aren't we both your children?" Loretta, standing beside Aisha, nodded firmly. "Mom, Aisha is right. She's your daughter too, and you're being unfair. If you keep this up, I'll report you to Dad." Mrs. Zocchi's expression hardened, but for a moment she was silent, taken aback by the boldness of both girls. Her gaze shifted between them before she finally spoke, her voice cold. "You two are too young to understand. One day, Loretta will thank me for everything I'm doing. You'll see." Without another word, she walked away, leaving the girls standing there, bewildered and hurt. Aisha's tears fell freely now, and Loretta hugged her tightly, whispering, "Don't worry, Aisha. Dad will make this right." Aisha nodded. "Why is Mom saying I am her child?" "We will tell Dad," she said amidst het sobs. The primary school graduation ceremony was a grand and joyful occasion. Parents filled the auditorium, eager to celebrate their children's achievements. Among them were Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi, who had come to support their daughters, Loretta and Aisha. As the awards ceremony began, Loretta's name echoed repeatedly through the hall. Best in English language, best in mathematics, best overall student, the announcer declared, listing her achievements. Loretta proudly walked to the stage each time, her face beaming with excitement as she accepted the awards. She received a total of 6 accolades that day, an extraordinary feat that left the audience in awe. Mr. Zocchi, who was physically present at the event, couldn't contain his joy. He stood up to applaud Loretta every time her name was mentioned. "That's my girl," he exclaimed, his pride evident. When the ceremony concluded, he approached the school principal and pledged a generous donation as a token of appreciation for their dedication to academic excellence. Loretta's excitement was unmatched as she clutched her awards, her face glowing with pride. Aisha, standing by her sister, smiled warmly. She cheered for Loretta at every mention of her name, genuinely happy for her sister's success. Mrs. Zocchi, too, was thrilled, applauding enthusiastically. "Yes, that's my daughter," she said with a bright smile, her voice filled with pride and satisfaction. When the family returned home later that day, Mr. Zocchi carefully examined Loretta's awards, praising her accomplishments. But as he looked around, he noticed something missing. Turning to Aisha, he asked gently, "My beautiful girl, what happened? You didn't come home with any awards today. What's going on?" Aisha's face fell, and tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "I didn't study as hard this term. I promise to do better in my next class. Please don't be angry with me." Mr. Zocchi knelt down to her level, his expression softening. "It's okay, my darling," he said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I want both of you to do well and excel. I believe in you, Aisha, and I know you'll make me proud." Aisha nodded, wiping her tears, feeling reassured by her father's encouragement. Mrs. Zocchi, however, had a different reaction. Smiling, she said, "This is wonderful. Loretta proved her brilliance this time, and that's all that matters." Her words stung Aisha, but she remained silent, unwilling to dampen the celebratory mood. Though the day was filled with pride and joy for Loretta's achievements, it also left an unspoken tension in the air. Years went by, and Aisha and Loretta grew into beautiful young women. But their lives were completely different because of the opportunities they had, or didn't have. Aisha lived a life of simplicity and hard work. Her clothes were plain, mostly simple gowns that didn't stand out, and she hardly wore makeup. Her days were filled with endless house chores, cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, while everyone else seemed to enjoy life. Mrs. Zocchi often said it was to teach her responsibility, but Aisha knew deep down that she was being treated unfairly. On the other hand, Loretta had everything handed to her. Her wardrobe was full of stylish dresses, expensive shoes, and the latest accessories. Her hair was always well done, and she always wore makeup that made her look even more glamorous. Loretta acted like the boss of the house because, in a way, she was. Everyone was told to treat her like royalty, even Aisha, who was often asked to do things for her, as though she were a servant. The difference between them wasn't just in their clothes or chores. Loretta had all the best opportunities, access to wealthy and important people, and a life of comfort. Aisha, on the other hand, had to work twice as hard just to get by, with little to no help. Yet, despite the struggles, she carried herself with quiet strength and dignity. In public, the sisters rarely spent time together. Loretta was always at fancy events, where people admired her beauty and style. Meanwhile, Aisha stayed in the background, unnoticed but holding on to her inner pride. One fateful afternoon, Aisha burst into the living room, her face glowing with excitement as she waved her admission letter in the air. "Dad, Mom, I did it. I passed with excellent grades, and now I can go to any university of my choice." Her voice was filled with pride and hope, her dreams seemingly within reach. Mr. Zocchi, seated on the couch, put down his newspaper and beamed at her. "That's wonderful news, Aisha. I'm so proud of you." He rose to give her a warm hug, his joy evident. Mrs. Zocchi, sitting stiffly in her armchair, glanced at the letter with a cold expression. "Let me remind you, young lady," she said sharply, "it's not up to you to decide which university you'll attend. That decision rests with us." Aisha's smile faltered, her heart sinking. "But, Mom, Enough." Mrs. Zocchi cut her off, her tone dismissive. Just then, the front door opened, and Loretta strolled in, looking slightly flustered. "My results aren't out yet," she announced, dropping her bag on the floor. "They told me to come back next week." Mrs. Zocchi's demeanor instantly softened as she turned to her daughter. "Don't worry, Loretta," she said with a reassuring smile. "I'm sure your results will be even better than the ones we've already seen." Loretta tossed her hair back and nodded confidently. "Of course, they will be. You just have to trust me." Aisha watched the exchange in silence, her joy from earlier now completely overshadowed. She had always noticed how differently Mrs. Zocchi treated her compared to Loretta, but she could never understand why. A few days later, tension filled the Zocchi household. Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi were locked in a heated argument in the study. "I don't understand you," Mrs. Zocchi hissed, her arms crossed. "You actually want to send that girl to the same university as Loretta? Are you out of your mind?" "She's not just that girl," Mr. Zocchi shot back, his voice firm but weary. "Aisha is our daughter too, and she's worked hard for this. We can't discriminate against her." Mrs. Zocchi's face darkened, her voice rising. "You don't get it, do you? Aisha's presence is intimidating Loretta. Every time that girl shines, Loretta feels overshadowed. I won't let that continue. I swear I won't." Mr. Zocchi sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "These children are ours. Both of them deserve equal opportunities in life. How can you be so heartless?" "Heartless?" Mrs. Zocchi scoffed, her eyes blazing. "Don't lecture me about fairness. You better rethink your stance, because I will never allow Aisha to be in the same university as Loretta, over my dead body." The argument echoed through the house, and Aisha, sitting quietly in her room, couldn't help but overhear snippets of their voices. She clutched her admission letter tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. All she had ever wanted was to make her parents proud as the first child of the family. Meanwhile, Loretta stood outside the study door, a smug smile playing on her lips. She loved being the center of her mother's world and didn't mind if Aisha's success was sacrificed to maintain her own spotlight. Finally, Aisha and Loretta gained admission into one of the best universities in the country. Aisha chose to study computer engineering, a challenging course, while Loretta went for accounting. From the start, their approach to university life was completely different. Aisha, determined to succeed, focused all her energy on her studies. She lived modestly, managing the little money Mr. Zocchi occasionally sent her. She worked part-time jobs to make up for what she lacked, barely having enough for textbooks, meals, and basic necessities. Her life was simple, filled with lectures, library sessions, and hard work. Loretta, on the other hand, had no interest in the struggles of student life. She quickly joined the Big Girls Club, a group of rich girls who lived extravagantly on campus. Parties, shopping, and flaunting designer clothes became her daily routine. Loretta rarely attended classes and laughed off any mention of studying. Loretta had everything Aisha didn't: luxury handbags, the latest phones, flashy jewelry, and expensive perfumes. She never hesitated to remind Aisha of their stark differences. One day, as Aisha walked to class wearing her worn-out sandals and faded jeans, Loretta spotted her from the balcony of her hostel, surrounded by her big girl's friends. "Hey Aisha," Loretta called out loud enough for everyone around to hear. "What are you wearing? Are those shoes or relics from a museum?" The girls burst into laughter, and Loretta continued, "Oh wait, I forgot. You can't afford better ones. Don't worry, maybe next semester you'll upgrade to something less embarrassing." Aisha ignored her, though her heart sank. She walked on, pretending not to hear, but the sting of Loretta's words stayed with her. At one of the big girls' events, a rumor about Aisha began to circulate. One of Loretta's friends said, "Is it true Aisha doesn't even own a proper bag? I heard she carries her books in a polythene bag sometimes." Loretta laughed harder than anyone else. "That's my sister for you," she said mockingly. "She's trying to save money for her next meal." In class, Loretta would boast loudly about her social life. "I don't know why people stress so much over exams," she said one day. "If you have the right connections, life is smooth. My best grades are sure because no lecturer wants to be sacked. I got all it takes to secure my future. I got my mum's backup." Meanwhile, Mrs. Zocchi always seemed determined to frustrate Aisha's academic progress, especially during exam periods. As soon as exams were approaching, she would summon Aisha home under the guise of needing her help with house chores. Once there, Aisha would be burdened with endless tasks. "All the clothes in this house must be washed and ironed," Mrs. Zocchi would say, handing her a mountain of laundry, including clothes that were perfectly clean. "And don't forget to wash the curtains as well." After the laundry, she would direct Aisha to the kitchen. "Make sure you wash all the dishes, yes, even the ones in the store. Dry them properly and arrange them neatly. I don't want a single speck of dust on anything." The chores were endless: sweeping, mopping, cooking, and organizing. By the time Aisha was done, she would be physically drained, with barely any time left to study. 2 days before her exams, she would still be scrubbing floors or ironing piles of clothes. When she finally returned to school, she would be behind on her lectures and notes, leaving her struggling to catch up. Determined not to fall behind completely, Aisha would quickly join group discussions to grasp what she had missed. But Loretta, who was fully aware of her absence and always ready to mock her, would seize the opportunity to embarrass her. As the group discussion progressed, Loretta smirked and said loudly, "Aisha, why don't you contribute? Or is this group to advance for you? Maybe you should stick to what you're good at, chores. I mean, nobody irons clothes better than you, right?" The group burst into laughter, their voices echoing in the room. One of Loretta's friends added mockingly, "Oh, by the way, Aisha, I have a pile of dirty clothes in my room. Can you help me out? I'll even pay you." Another chimed in, "And don't forget my dishes. I could use someone with your skills." The laughter grew louder, with some students clutching their sides and wiping tears from their eyes. Aisha's face burned with humiliation, but she tried to stay composed. Loretta wasn't done yet. "Seriously, Aisha," she continued with a smirk, "if there was an award for the best maid on campus, you'd win it hands down." The group erupted into another round of laughter, some doubling over, while others exchanged amused glances. 2 days before the much-anticipated graduation, Aisha and Loretta sat in their shared room, sorting through dresses and making plans for the big day. Aisha held up a simple but elegant gown, smiling as she said, "In no time, I'll be working in Dad's company, in the engineering department. I can't wait to put everything I've learned into practice." Loretta, who had been admiring her own flashy outfit, froze mid-motion. Her eyes widened in fury as she processed Aisha's words. She spun around, her voice laced with indignation. "Are you serious right now? Who told you that you'd be allowed to work in my father's company?" Before Aisha could respond, Mrs. Zocchi, who had been sitting in the living room scrolling through her phone, suddenly stood up and stormed into the room. Her face was unreadable, but her tone carried an edge that silenced both girls. "I think it's high time I let out the little secret I've been keeping for years," she said coldly. Aisha frowned, confused. "What do you mean, Mom?" Mrs. Zocchi's lips curled into a smirk as she crossed her arms. "Aisha, you don't belong here. We are not your biological parents, and Loretta is not your sister. You're an orphan. We took you in out of charity." The words hit Aisha like a thunderbolt. She staggered back, her eyes welling up with tears. "Mom, you mean I'm not your daughter? And Dad, he's not my father." Loretta's jaw dropped as she stared at her mother. "Mom, are you serious? She's not my sister." Mrs. Zocchi's smirk turned into a triumphant laugh. "Yes, my darling," she said, placing a hand on Loretta's shoulder. "You are the real heir to everything in this house. You don't need to compete with anyone, especially not an orphan like her." Aisha's face crumpled with pain as she whispered, "I can't believe this. All these years, I thought I had a family, a real family." Her voice broke as tears streamed down her face. She grabbed her phone from the table and ran out of the house, her sobs echoing behind her. As the door slammed shut, Loretta turned to her mother, a wide grin spreading across her face. She hugged Mrs. Zocchi tightly. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for securing my future. You're the best." Mrs. Zocchi chuckled and patted her daughter's back. "Of course, my darling. You are my priority, and I'll make sure nothing stands in your way, not even Aisha." Meanwhile, outside the house, Aisha ran aimlessly, her heart shattered into pieces. The revelation of her true identity left her feeling lost and alone, with questions swirling in her mind about who she really was and where she belonged. Mr. Zocchi sat in his office, engrossed in a pile of paperwork, when his attention was suddenly drawn to the television screen. A news broadcast flashed across it, and his heart nearly stopped when he saw the familiar face of his daughter, Orisha. She stood confidently before the cameras, speaking with determination. "My name is Orisha," she said. "I recently discovered that I lost my biological parents in a tragic accident 20 years ago, and I have been living with a family that isn't mine. If you have any missing family members or know of anyone who fits this story, please contact me at this number." Mr. Zocchi's jaw dropped, his mind racing. Who had told her the truth? Who had exposed the secret he had guarded so closely all these years? He felt a mix of shock, anger, and panic. Slamming his hands on the desk, he grabbed his car keys and stormed out of the office, leaving his bewildered staff behind. When he arrived home, the tension in the air was palpable. He burst into the living room, his face red with fury. "Ella," he roared, addressing his wife. "What have you done? Who let out the secret? Who told Orisha she's not our daughter?" Mrs. Zocchi, who had been seated calmly with a cup of tea, looked up nonchalantly. "Oh, Zocchi," she said dismissively, "why are you so worked up? She deserved to know the truth. I've carried this burden long enough." "You just did your worst," Mr. Zocchi shouted, his voice trembling with rage. "You had no right to tell her, none at all. You've broken her heart and disgraced this family. You'll pay dearly for this." Their voices escalated into a heated argument, echoing through the house. Loretta, hearing the commotion, rushed into the living room. "Mom, Dad, please stop arguing," she pleaded, stepping between them. "This isn't the time for fights." In the heat of the moment, Mrs. Zocchi gestured angrily, and her hand accidentally struck Loretta. Loretta staggered backward, her face contorted in pain, and then collapsed to the floor. "Loretta," Mr. Zocchi shouted, rushing to her side. Panic filled the room as Mrs. Zocchi knelt beside her daughter, shaking her. "Loretta, wake up. Speak to me." Without wasting time, they rushed Loretta to H Hospital. The doctors took her into the emergency room, leaving the parents anxiously waiting in the hallway. After what felt like an eternity, a solemn doctor emerged. "Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi," he began, "Loretta is stable for now, but there's something you need to know. She's pregnant." Mrs. Zocchi gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Pregnant?" The doctor nodded gravely. "Yes, however, her womb has been severely ruptured due to multiple past abortions. This has significantly weakened her ability to carry a pregnancy. The chances of her carrying this baby to full term are extremely low. She will need strict medical supervision and complete rest throughout." Mrs. Zocchi slumped into a nearby chair, tears streaming down her face. "My Loretta, how did it come to this?" she whispered. Mr. Zocchi looked at his wife with a mixture of disappointment and sorrow. "This is what happens when you focus on covering up instead of nurturing. You've been so focused on keeping up appearances, and now look where it's led us." Mrs. Zocchi shook her head. "All I have been doing is for our daughter to do well in life. I mean no harm." On the day of the graduation ceremony, Mrs. Zocchi was adamant that Loretta had to attend, despite her health condition. She instructed the doctors to discharge her daughter temporarily, insisting that it was an important milestone she couldn't miss. Against medical advice, Loretta was dressed up and taken to the event, though she looked visibly weak. At the graduation venue, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement as students and their families gathered. Mr. Zocchi, who had been searching for Orisha, finally spotted her. His heart raced as he approached her. "Orisha," he said, his voice laced with regret, "why have you not been answering my calls? Please, forgive me. I'm so sorry for all the pain my family has caused you." Orisha looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. "Thank you, Dad," she said softly. "I'm glad I finally know the truth about who I am. But that doesn't change the place you hold in my life. You'll always be my father." As they embraced, a commotion drew everyone's attention. For sleek luxury cars pulled into the school compound, their polished surfaces gleaming under the sunlight. A group of well-dressed individuals stepped out. Exuding an aura of wealth and authority, they walked directly towards Orisha. One of them, an elderly man dressed in an elegant suit, spoke. "Miss Orisha," he began with a respectful bow, "after extensive investigations, we have confirmed that you are Princess Orisha, the granddaughter of King Marquis of the Royal House of Larue. Your father was the founder of M&V Group of Companies, a conglomerate worth millions of dollars." Gasps echoed among the crowd. Mr. and Mrs. Zocchi exchanged stunned looks, their shock palpable. Mr. Zocchi stammered, "M&V Group of Companies. That's been the backbone of my business for over a century. The contracts I receive from them are the lifeline of my company." Before anyone could say more, the conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the speakers. "Orisha Zocchi, please come to the podium as the best student in the Department of Computer Engineering." Cheers erupted as Orisha made her way to the stage, her head held high. As she received her plaque, the presenter added, "In recognition of her outstanding academic performance, Orisha has been awarded a full scholarship to pursue further studies abroad." The applause was deafening, and tears streamed down Mr. Zocchi's face as he watched Orisha shine. Meanwhile, Mrs. Zocchi, who had been scanning the program, noticed that Loretta's name was missing from the list of graduating students. Confused, she approached one of the professors, Professor Frank, for clarification. "Excuse me," she said. "My daughter Loretta Zocchi's name isn't listed among the graduates. Can you explain why?" Professor Frank adjusted his glasses and replied bluntly, "Mrs. Zocchi, your daughter was expelled 2 years ago due to poor academic performance and consistent misconduct." Without waiting for a response, he walked away, leaving her speechless. Mrs. Zocchi turned to Loretta, her face pale with shock. "Loretta, is this true? Were you expelled? Why didn't you tell me?" Loretta avoided her mother's piercing gaze, tears welling up in her eyes. "I didn't want to disappoint you, Mom," she whispered. "I was too ashamed to tell you the truth." Mrs. Zocchi staggered, her world crumbling around her. She had done everything to prioritize Loretta's success over Aisha's, yet everything had unraveled before her eyes. As Orisha descended from the podium, glowing with pride, Loretta looked away, overwhelmed by shame. Mr. Zocchi stood silently, reflecting on how their choices had shaped the very different paths of the two girls he had raised. A week after the graduation ceremony, a grand celebration was held at the Royal Palace to officially welcome Princess Orisha back to her rightful home. The event was a spectacle of elegance and tradition, with dignitaries, nobles, and villagers from all over the kingdom gathered to witness the return of the heir to the throne. Princess Orisha was the only surviving child of the king's late son, who had been the designated heir. Her arrival brought renewed hope and joy to the royal family and the kingdom. The king, his heart brimming with pride and emotion, stood beside Aisha throughout the ceremony. "This is a day we have prayed for," he said, addressing the crowd. "The future queen of our kingdom has returned, and the legacy of our family is secure." The celebration was nothing short of spectacular. Traditional dancers performed, drums echoed in rhythm, and fireworks illuminated the night sky. The air buzzed with the sound of music and laughter. News of Aisha's return spread like wildfire, and soon the entire nation was rejoicing. A month later, Princess Aisha was officially installed as the CEO of M&V Corporation, fulfilling her father's dream. She took on the role with grace and determination, bringing new energy and vision to the multi-million-dollar conglomerate. One of her first acts as CEO was to announce a groundbreaking employment initiative. "We are creating 50 job opportunities for graduates," she declared at a press conference. "These roles will be distributed across all our branches worldwide, offering young talents a chance to grow and contribute to our success." Her announcement garnered widespread praise, with many hailing her as a compassionate and forward-thinking leader. Meanwhile, back at the Zocchi household, the atmosphere was somber. Loretta, who was battling complications from her pregnancy, had been placed on strict medical care. Her health remained fragile, and the doctors had warned that her chances of carrying the pregnancy to full term were slim. She was now on a regimen of medications and constant monitoring to support her recovery. Mrs. Zocchi, once a domineering and ambitious woman, was now a shadow of her former self. Consumed by guilt and regret, she rarely left Loretta's side, attending to her every need. The weight of her past actions against Aisha bore heavily on her. She often sat in silence, replaying the moments when she had tried to undermine Aisha's potential, only to see her rise above every obstacle. One evening, as she held Loretta's hand, she whispered, "If only I'd treated Aisha better. She's now a queen in waiting, the CEO of a corporation, and a beacon of hope for so many. I was so blinded by my own desires that I failed to see the gem she truly was." Loretta, pale and weak, looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. "Mom," she said softly, "I wish I had been a better sister to Aisha. Maybe things would have been different." The once busy Zocchi household was now quiet, filled with the echoes of regret and the hope that Loretta might find the strength to rebuild her life. Aisha, however, continued to shine brightly, not out of spite, but as a testament to her resilience and the unwavering strength she had carried throughout her journey.
Hello besties, what are your takeaways from this story? Please share them with us in the comments section. We'd love to hear your thoughts. There are even more interesting stories waiting for you on this channel. Check the description below for the links to those videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and become part of our amazing community.
Thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. I love you.